How are you guys?
Yeah, I'm great, me.
Oh, fantastic.
Just fanning around with my headphones. I think somebody swapped my ears when I weren't looking.
I lost a set of headphones that I listen to when I go to sleep. I've a real issue sleeping, so I have to listen to stuff. Typically, it's Dad's Army, and I lost them the other week, and I got a new set, and it was horrendous.
I think these have got two left ears on or something. Because
Thank
they
you
don't.
to
One
our
of them
four
don't
sponsors
fit.
for supporting our podcast. Johnny Russell's Milk Pies, Alexander Grape's Law, Jez and Lisa's Spoonful of Sweets, and SP Furnishings.
Well, yeah.
Links to their websites are available in the show notes and on our website.
But it's not.
Don't forget to subscribe to get all the latest episodes as soon as they're released.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Housecast, the Lowerhouse Cricket Club official podcast. I'm not sure there's any unofficial ones, but I have to put that at the front for our sponsors, etc. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and thanks to the contributions we've had from various spectators and supporters and followers. Everyone's really appreciating the podcast, and we're not far off getting to our 100. I'm sure one of our co-hosts will know exactly how many we're up to. So without more of ado, it's beyond just over halfway through the season. We're just having a little chat through of where we're at, where we're up to, how things are going between the three of us sat here, just having a quiet little pint. So first of all, I'll introduce my lovely little co-host, Joe Martin. How's it going, Joe?
Very well, thank you, Jeremy. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, we've had just talking off air, weren't we, Joe, about how busy things are, and just seem to be non-stop, and you're working as well. What have you been up to? Are you still keeping yourself fit and working hard?
Yeah, still running, still working, still coaching. I would say, Jez, there was a period of time where it would be very rare that we went a week without speaking. And I reckon it's been a few now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I gave you a call probably 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was about, but we chatted for about 40 minutes and put the world to it. It might have been about the new Conservative Prime Minister, but I can't.
Oh, God, no.
No, we don't.
Sorry. We don't need to get into that.
We'll have another catch-up soon, Joe, and then hopefully we can, start getting more and more of the podcasts out for the listeners. So our other co-host who's on tonight, all the way down from the south coast, Gary Morehouse. How you guys?
Evening, Jez. You well?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, we've, as we said, we've been quite busy just recently with one thing and another, so we've not had a catch up much. Gary, you mentioned that the weather's been good down there this last weekend, and I think you said something like, well, it has been all over the country, hasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. We're still on sort of gas mark about five and a bit maybe. So, but I noticed, there were a bit of weather your way on Sunday, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real shame, really. I mean, we will go into that for that finals day. We'll ask Joe about it because I didn't go to it. I was over in Chester at that Carfest thing.
Wonderful!
A bit of a jolly over there. So, but there was a lot of rain certainly Friday, and I think then you got a bit more in East Lancashire, Joe, on the Saturday and the Sunday. So you'll have to send
a bit though, Chester, Jez, isn't it?
Say again, Joe.
It's a lovely place, Chester.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's very tranquil and nice and peaceful in my van. So,
I like walking the walls.
The walls of Chester?
Yeah, where the castle was.
Right. And what do you like about it?
I just think I like it, the other bit like medieval people would have walked, the same path.
All those years ago.
Yet my little bent legs have done the same.
So tell me you've been and bought a suit of armour or something. Dress up as Sir Joe of lots of hair or something, whatever it is.
Sir Joe of short leg. Yeah. Brilliant. Right, well, whilst we're on about the weather, we're going to talk through, listeners, around the games, the significant games, where we think we're at with these. And I think it's quite interesting because we've got Joe's perspective as the current player in the dressing room knowing a lot more going on than Gary and I. I've been to quite a few games. Gaz came up a few weeks ago to watch a bit of a washed out game, and no doubt watching quite a bit from YouTube. So, Joe, let's just move on, just in general. So how do you see, we've had the podcast at the start of the season, which was very positive and very, a really enlightening podcast from yourself and the pro and Ben. How do you assess the season so far? Bearing in mind we are sixth, it's a real tight league. How would you assess it up to now?
I would say our season has been close to where we would want to be, but in some cases just not quite close enough. I think in the league we've had some fantastic performances, but there's been some games where they've been really tight and they could have swung either way, and on those occasions they swung the wrong way. In the same way, we've had some tight games that swung our way, but I think if you want to be at the very top of the league, you've got to make those games your way. In the cups, we've competed really well. The semi-final was really disappointing, but we were beaten by a fantastic innings by Kieran Grimshaw. Give a chance. It was fantastic, magnificent inning. And then we're still in the semi-final of the T20 as well, so we'll see what happens there. But we're playing a good team in Crompton. But so I'd say, sorry, guys.
Is there anything in that then that is it a bit of rubbish that, not that we're a cup side this year or anything, but are we looking at that consistency where on a day in a cup, then we're finding that we're hitting their form, but we're just not stringing 7-8 wins together in the league to be up there with the Darwin and Clitheroe?
I wouldn't. Yeah, it's a really good point, Gaz. I'm not sure whether I'd say we were a cup side, although we have done really well in the cups the past few years. I just think in the league it's such a good standard and it's really tight that it only takes a few different decisions, or it takes an innings from someone else or someone to kick on, and you win those tight games. I'm thinking against like Darwin, for example, was a really tight game that we should have won really, but we just came out on the wrong side of that, and the tie against Rami as well was also close, but and one that we should have won realistically. And I think, but you are right in the kind of inconsistent. We've spoke about it a lot on the podcast that if you want to win the league, you need to go on a run. And we started well. We lost a few games in the middle, then we gathered a bit more pace, then we lost the momentum a little bit, and we started again. We've won a few games in a row now, which has been excellent, and it's a bit of confidence in the team. So hopefully we can finish as high as possible. I don't know whether we can realistically win the league. Darwin are quite far ahead, 45 points or so. So it's going to be a tough ask for another 5 teams to all lose, all those games. But we can certainly try and win every game and see where we finish.
I think you're right. We have said it before about overall the split in the leagues over the years, and it's got all the best teams and the best players at the top, and the standard is so much higher than it ever was than I can remember. But you look at the next 3 games, and you probably mark them down, with all due respect to the opposition, as games that you're going to win. So if you can punch those next 3 games, then you don't know, do you? No. You're not going to lose any more ground if you can move up to 2 or 3 spaces and get within a win or win and a half of the top 2. Then it's all to shout for towards the end.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't, not for 1 minute are we counting it out until it's sort of mathematically impossible. It's a really good point. It's a really good point. If we can win and play well in these next few games, when we end up playing against, Darwin and Clitheroe and those kinds of teams, who knows where it can finish. Stranger things have happened, I think.
Yeah.
They might not have now I think about it.
Yeah, but it's, what Gary's points there around the cup, and we've never been anti-side, really. I've never seen that, but I do think the way that the league is made up now, and players progress, whereas years ago a good player was a good player for 10 years and consistently got either 600-700 runs or 40, 50, 60 wickets. Whereas now you've got young players coming through and they're hitting the straps quickly. The training, the coaching they've had. The younger players are all of a sudden coming to the fore and doing really quite well.
I've got a question for you, Jez. Sorry, with the standard of the cricket. Now, obviously, you guys played against some fantastic cricketers.
Yeah.
But with the standard that we play at now, and the what word is it? And the intensity that we play at, the amount of cricket that we play at. You had a long, illustrious career, Jez, as did you, Gary. Do you think that the standard that we play at will shorten people cricketing because of the kind of I think the intensity is that they play at now?
I don't know. I think it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're almost saying the intensity and the pressure and the mental side might stop players playing. I'm not sure you will ever see another Blaise or Keith Roscoe or these players that can continually play, game after, season after season. I don't know what you think, Gaz, but it's back in our day, Joe, you've got to understand, we were very much, if at best, a middle of the table side, at the very best. So we weren't under the pressure that you lot are under now, or that those top sides are under. I don't know what you think, Gary. I do think it's harder now for these players, but I will finish it off by saying I think a lot of them are softies.
I think you're right, Jez. I think it is different. I'd throw into there that if their, let's say, peak of their careers are condensed into a shorter span because of the intensity or whatever you want to throw about that. I'd also add into that possibly the good amateurs actually get other opportunities now that they wouldn't have done previously. So whether that's proing in another league, whether that's, I don't know, paid amateur, whatever it might be, or opportunities at a county level or second, that's getting exposure to that. There's people who are looking to progress, not just play local cricket or play local cricket with Lowerhouse, which, back in the day, there was a lot of that. We were just happy to be, honoured and happy to be playing first 11 cricket in the Lancashire League and nothing much more, really. Jez is spot on. Are we going to see 10,000 or however many thousand wickets Roscoe's got? God, that'll be a long time coming, I think. But you might see somebody getting 7,000 or 8,000 runs in a very quick time. Mm-hmm. But that type of player then could be, saying, well, what else is it to do playing in the Lancashire League? I'll go and try myself in the Yorkshire leagues, or get noted. I've got a second 11 contract with Derbyshire or somebody. So I think it has changed. Jez is bob on, and probably for the better. You can't hang on to those sort of as good as those memories were. The game had to move forward. The leagues had to move forward, and it's probably better all round the standard. And look at the kids coming through. That's just testament to it, to everything we've said there.
Yeah, it is, and also it's worth adding now when you look at the other clubs that are around. There's still that community there that was there when Bethany and Grace were there, and Adam and Amy as real young kids. There's still that community spirit there and all that togetherness. But it's spreading even more in as much as the top sides. We'll have 100 kids at every training session. The girls section, the ladies section. You look at Ramsbottom. You look at our girls that play for our sides. They're making such progress. And going in the right direction. I don't think there'll be anything wrong with it, Joe. And I'll throw it back at you. I know you're closing in on a lot of records for not missing any games. But do you think you'll be playing as long as Higgy played?
It's a very good question. You see, I'd always like to think that I would. I don't think I'd be able to play all the formats. I think playing all the formats is starting to take its toll, actually. Playing league cricket, which is I absolutely love playing, but playing T20 cricket and cup cricket and in the Lancashire Cup when if you get in it, I honestly don't know. I don't know. I think I benefit from the fact that I'm very single, and that's by choice. It's by choice, and it's usually theirs. So, I think that's one of the things. But I don't know. I don't think it's very difficult. I think when I speak to other people now, Iggy would have played well into his 40s, I would imagine.
Yeah.
When I speak to cricketers playing now, I don't think they envisage playing that long.
No. And I suppose the stress, and not stress as in, the mental side of it comes in all different formats. But, I'm watching, and I know you're not a big lover of the T20, Joe, and I never was. We first came in when I was finishing, and it was just Mickey Mouse. Wasn't interested, but I'd play because, they wanted me to, and, there'd probably no one to take my place. But now you're going out there, and if you're not overly switched on, you're letting up to 1,000 spectators down or more.
Yeah, agreed.
Come on to watch this, and you drop a catch, simple catch, and you're going to take some flack for it, or you only need 3 to win off the last 2 overs, and you end up getting up. There is that added pressure there that I guess was never really on us. So let's see.
I guess it depends on what you see that kind of cricket as. I think if it's one of your as a cricket club, we want to win everything. But I wonder whether there is a point to be put forward that you can use the 2020 to give young cricketers exposure to playing in front of crowds and first team cricket and playing against pros as a developmental mean.
Definitely.
There's no relegation or anything like that.
Definitely.
So I wonder whether there's that kind of point.
No, I do, and I think for a player, you look at Jack Sim. What a great cricketer and a great club man he is. He's just not breaking to the first races, but he looked a complete player in the first team in the T20s. He's a great fielder. He doesn't appear to have any fear, so I'm sure that will help. Those people develop. And Henry, crikey experience that he got under his belt now.
Yeah.
From playing in that,
he's been fantastic.
Can we just go back? Can we just go back to the Rami game?
Yeah.
And please, Joe, just for the spectators, let's just have a little chat through that. The semi-final at Ramsbottom. I think if Ladbrokes were running a book, I think we would have been slight favourites. Looking at league positions, and all right, we only just beat them early on in the season. 209. Batting first, what were your thoughts about that, Joe? What were the team's thoughts?
It was certainly competitive,
okay,
but a little below par.
Right.
We would have liked to get 220, 230 on what was a slow but all right wicket.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had some very unfortunate moments in the match, in our batting innings. But we got off to a very good start. Paz and I built a little partnership. Charlie and Dean batted fantastically well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
It was magnificent. Really, really fantastic. But we just couldn't quite accelerate how we wanted because of the wickets that we'd lost. And they battered well. It's one of those games where you say, fair enough, well played.
Yeah, it was, Joe, as much as you got those starts, you pushed on, and then you're thinking, crack, if we can get to 160 here, that'll be a good score. Then, you and Stephen have put that partnership on there, right? We're stabilising it a little bit. And I like that ethos that Ben has drilled into you all about take the game long, let me give ourselves a chance for as long as we can. And then Charlie and Dean, look like, cracky, we could get 220 here, maybe 225, and then there's the unfortunate run out, and then Charlie gets out, and then it's back to 180. But I thought Tom and Blaise did well at the end.
Fantastic, yeah, magnificent.
Over that 200 and to get it there. But as it turns out, we'll go straight onto their innings, and you've got the early wicket, you've got a couple of wickets early, and then Grimshaw's come in. Did he look in fantastic form from the start? Because by all accounts, and fair play to the Lowerhouse fans and the Lowerhouse players, everyone to a man and woman have said that it was, a real top, one of the best innings people have seen in such circumstances. Did he ever look in any trouble at all?
No, never looked in any trouble. Didn't look like giving a chance. It was completely measured. The innings was timed to perfection, I would say. It was a fantastic innings. And it wasn't, and it was one of those games where it wasn't like, well, if we'd have caught that catch there, if we'd have made that stop, if we'd have got that run out or whatever, it didn't give a chance.
Yeah.
Didn't give a chance.
Yeah. So cap off.
Fantastic. Sometimes.
Sometimes it happens. None of the bowlers have gone around the park or anything, So good luck in the Worsley Cup final.
Very much so. Very much.
Can we just talk about Sunday then, please, Joe? Just give the listeners the build-up to the finals day. What an achievement you guys getting there, beating Todd in that quarter-final. And then what was the week before like on the build-up to it? Does Ben train you lads any differently on the build-up? And what was it like on the morning?
No, there was nothing different in our preparation. And I think that was mainly because it was 40 degrees on Monday and Tuesday. And then when we trained on Thursday, we still had bits to do. We had a big game on Saturday against Haslingden that needed to be played. I was playing in the MCC on Friday that also got rained off. So I think preparation was normal. A few of the players went for breakfast on Sunday morning. The weather was actually okay, but they went for breakfast. And then we got over there and there was some sort of light drizzle, and they played through as it got heavier. And then we started the game, and they got off to a very, great start.
So just rewind a touch there, Joe.
Oh, sorry.
So Clitheroe and Rochdale were in the first semi-final. Yeah. So did you watch much of that? It looked like it was quite a comfortable win from Clitheroe.
Yeah, I'd say we watched about 7 overs. Yeah. Maybe. Clitheroe were looking very comfortable. They batted well. Yeah. Pro was looking like he was batting well. Yeah. So that looked relatively comfortable. It was all a bit odd really, because we got there and we were watching, and then we went to get changed because it was raining. They came off for rain, and it got to about 10 to 1. It stopped raining and we went out. It might have even been 1 o'clock. So we went out and I went to ask the umpires what time we were starting, and they said, yes, we're going to start at 1:10. Okay, and I was like, well, we're not even going to warm up or anything like that. No, we don't have time because we start losing overs from 1 o'clock. And it was bizarre. It was really odd. No one had a clue what was going on. So I think, I don't know whether we won or lost the toss. And they batted first, and they got off to a really, really good start. Really good start. But it was poor. It was boring down. Yeah. It was so wet. And I'm all for playing cricket. Played quite a few games now. But it was just so wet. You couldn't hold the ball. It's tough to hold that pink ball in the eye. Never mind when it's leathering it down. And then we honestly never looked like we were going to get back on.
It's such a shame. What sort of was the massive crowds there?
I wouldn't say massive, but there was certainly a good spread of fans from across the different clubs, and even clubs that weren't in the final. There were some players there. There were it was good. There was there was lots of people there. There was music and that kind of thing, and it looked like it was. Yeah. The way I would describe it, it looked like a summer fair in England, and that was mainly because it was raining. But yet people were still stood outside in the pouring rain, and we will have fun in this wet weather.
Yeah. I mean, it was. But I think we took. Did we take 2 or 3 coaches?
I think so. Yeah, I think there were 50 or 60 fans on the coach that came over, which is great, which is fantastic. And then obviously you've got people that come on the coach. So I'd say there was 100 or so Lowerhouse fans that came to watch. So that was good.
Well, fingers crossed. The replay date is it the August bank holiday weekend?
Yeah, I think so. 29th.
Yeah, 29th. So fingers crossed. And that, I'm assuming then that would be the second semi-final and the final played on the same day.
I think
still at Rochdale. So, the spectators, get yourself over there. Let's hope it's a nice sunny day.
I don't think it's at Rochdale though.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think it is. We'll have to wait and see. I think the league will make a decision on that, but I don't know. Yeah.
Check out the websites. I mean, you think back, Gary, did you play in any of the T20 games in the early days?
No. I think I'd long finished. I think the first or second season we got to whenever we got to the final in 2005, I think, or 6, and Aslington. I think that's the closest I got to any glory in that.
Yeah, never really. Well, certainly my cup of tea. We played before then. In Colne held a T20 tournament, the Floodlights.
2020, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, and I played in that. But it must be great to get all the fans there. It's good for the clubs. It's good for the income for the players. It always seems to be playing second fiddle to their welfare and everything. But it does bring in, and you can't help but smile when you see all the spectators on a Friday night.
Oh, it's fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, the way that the club organise our T20 nights is genuinely fantastic. Really excellent. And that's the idea. It's to get people coming and they're watching the games, and then hopefully those people that come on a T20 night will think, do you know what, this is all right. I'm gonna go and watch on a Sunday. We still get good following, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. I think our T20s as well is because there's all sorts going on with the entertainment after the game, and I think the big rivalry that's going on at the moment, which still is not bottomed, is who's the best DJ Duke or DJ Ginge. I think it's still going on, that, isn't it?
Well, I think when that weekend I were up, I think we were playing Todd at home on the T20. Was it Tommy Dean? I think it was. And Matt was DJ Ginge was still sitting in for the Italian stallion who was laid up, and I felt a little underwhelmed. I've got to be honest. I'd driven 300 miles, and to be treated to the Spice Girls and one or two
Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, some other 90s stuff that was obviously stuck in his mind.
Yeah, that was Matt's favourites when he was really young. Kylie Minogue. He had a poster on his bedroom wall, and Nikki coloured one of her teeth in, and he cried for a week.
Well, he took our kids to bloody Steps, S Club 7, didn't he? Just so the excuse that he could watch them. Or kids want to go, 7-year-olds and 10-year-olds want to go, so I'll take them. Yeah. He left them at back with some Coca-Cola and popcorn, and he's down at front.
In that mosh pit. Oh, brilliant! Right, thanks, Joe. Thanks ever so much for the update on Dennis. You've touched on the league. It is a long shot that I think 45 points ahead, Darwin. They're a good side. You can't take it away from them.
Yeah.
They've got some good quality, experienced amateurs, and Clitheroe, Nord, and chasing them. They're good sides as well. Is there any surprises this year within the league of underperforming or overperforming from any of the clubs or players?
I don't think so.
Thank you. So what about...
We've been on wrong end of a couple of decent individual score, haven't we? You mentioned Kim Grimshaw and Gail, who's 140.
Wolston.
Yeah, Wolston.
Crimes. He hit some of the biggest sixes I've ever
114
seen.
balls or something. An amateur again, 141. I mean, that you'd back in the day, you'd probably say, they were playing at Rottenstall or something, but that sounded like a good knock.
It was again. It was brilliant. Had a hell of a day out. And honestly, Wolston's not a big ground by any stretch, but these sixes would have been sixes anywhere. They were massive. They were massive. There's a set of houses that are back from the ground.
Yeah.
I'd say probably, I don't know, 20, 30 foot garden in those, maybe a little bit shorter. But around that size, and they were going over the houses, these sixes, going over the houses, and one of them hit the houses at the back, like halfway up.
Yeah.
They were massive. Yeah. They were massive. It was one of those, and we'd had a great start. They were 80 for 6, and they ended up getting 250.
Yeah. And was it just sheer brute effort, or was there some quality shots?
There were no. Some of them, hits across the line, but it's a complete legitimate shot. But those straight sixes were not trying to overhit or anything that I think that some amateurs can fall into the trap of. I think, if you're going to try and hit a six, you try and hit it as hard as you possibly can. Whereas he was just timing these balls and they were going. And it was, I mean, I watched for the last probably 10 overs. No ball came to me from behind the stump. Except for when they kept chucking it back. Or chucking another ball in from the balcony.
Yeah.
We need another one.
Yeah. No, it is, and the significant knocks, both of those, and from amateurs. So would that, that suggest that we've got some weaknesses that we didn't think we had? Tom Walker's come through. Paddy's developing even more into a fantastic all-round cricketer, a good league cricketer. But with not many players, in the top 20 averages of batting or bowling, Joe. I don't know we're putting you on the spot, but have you any look, I'm asking you a closed question again because you'll just say no. What's your thoughts about that?
So actually, I think it exemplifies how well we've done this year. So the fact that nobody is what you would describe as a standout performer who's taking 50 wickets or somebody who's already got 600 or 700 runs, I think sort of typifies our team in that we're doing well in the league.
Yeah.
And there's lots of good performances going on with everybody supporting the team. So I would say it's not about sort of one individual. It's a kind of collective unit that's doing well. Paddy's bowling well. It's 30 wickets, I think, now, or, something like that. Ben and Francois have batted well, and Dean Barlow's batted well, and Charlie's batted well, and everybody's sort of chipping in without really, pulling away and getting to 800 runs or 600 runs, or somebody taking 50 wickets, as I say.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually impressive.
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent, but do you not need that extra? Do you not need that one or two batter or bowler that's got that wow factor?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think if one of the players that was playing, myself included, I think actually as well, if we could, score those big hundreds that others get, we would be closer to the top of the league. Or, I think, or if somebody was, taking, lots of, really pulling away, because we've bowled and battered really well this year. Even in games where we've lost, we've done really well. The bonus points, show that. And we bowled lots of teams out this year as well. Would it make a difference if someone had taken 50 wickets, or if someone had scored 500 runs already, or 600 runs? Yes, but that's not the team we've got.
No, I guess not. Sorry, Gary, I interrupted you. Were you?
I was just going to throw into the mix then. In terms of Steve Parry's season and how that's panning out. I think I haven't got all the stats in front of me, but I think in the last few weeks his own contribution, I don't know how he feels about it. I heard, obviously we did that podcast where he sort of talked about, him contributing and the team winning and his views on that. His batting performances, I think, is fair to say, have improved. Now, is that down to conditions lately, or tracks being better, or anything like that, Joe? Or is it just working harder in the nets, or is it just a run of form that players generally find themselves in every now and again? And the same question, again on his bowling. You're in prime position behind the stumps to see, is his flight better? Is his line better? Is his pace better?
It's a really good question, Gaz. I think I'll start by saying, and I think he alluded to it in the podcast actually. I don't think I've ever met anybody that genuinely doesn't care as much how he does, providing the team does well. It's really remarkable. It genuinely is. His bowling has always been excellent, always fantastic. He's very accurate. He takes wickets. He gets big players out. He gets pros out, which is what you want. He was out for a big portion of the season at the start, and that always impacts somebody's batting. But I think in the last few weeks we've certainly seen, how good a batter he is, and we as players sort of know that how good a player he is.
And is he fully recovered now from that injury, Joe? He's 100%.
Yeah, definitely. I think with any player, when you have an injury for that length of time. I think you probably still feel it every now and again, but as far as he's aware, he's been fantastic in the field as well. If you watch those three games the other week, I think he did more miles than Paula Radcliffe running around and like diving and stuff.
As long as he didn't take the same wee breaks. I don't think that go down very well. Anyway.
I mean, what you say there, Joe, we can see from the side as well, Joe, the commitment. And you're right, he wants to bowl when it's tough. He wants to, he will bowl at an end that isn't really suited to him, which is, of all the great pros we've had, they are few and far between. And rightly so, they are the people that get it all, to win your games, etc. So his commitment goes without saying. And that 90 odd, apparently, it wasn't. I didn't see it, but it was a great knock.
Fantastic, really fantastic.
Yeah. So Joe, what Stephen's got? He's got quite a few interests outside the Lowerhouse as well. He obviously always has had the amount of games he played at Lancs, but from what I'm reading, I haven't seen a great deal of it. He's making some great movements, within the ladies' game. Does he talk much about that, and is he enjoying it a lot?
Yeah, he loves his coaching, always on hand for advice. And when you've played at the level he has and where he's played, played for England, played in the Big Bash, and tapping into that kind of experience is so valuable to anybody that asks him. And he's a very, very good coach. So I wouldn't, I don't think that there's a situation where sort of coaching would reduce. I think that it'll keep getting better and better. He's a really fantastic, he's a really, really great coach. Really excellent communicator with people. That's actually one of the things that I think that people probably don't see as spectators, how good a communicator is within the team, and bringing people together and putting ideas and that kind of thing is magnificent. Really fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, from what you read and what you see, he's very well thought of within the, certainly the Lancs ladies teams and girls teams that are there that he's helping out, and that he's not getting any younger. That's got to affect. He's got to think of his future career within that sort of arena. No doubt he's got some sort of a path ready-made for it. So let's see how he goes, and fingers crossed for the last half a dozen or so games that he can continue this form, and get himself 500 or 600 runs or 50 or 60 wickets. So thanks for your input around that, Joe. Gary, anything else about the first team before we have a little look at the seconds?
No, I think just to finish off on the pro, I mean, again, this is from one game when I was up against Clitheroe on the Tide game and missed most of the first innings, so didn't see us scrape to 100 and teens or whatever we got. But enthralled with the second inning, and everybody pitched in, and from 40 odd for none, Clitheroe chasing, not so many, and you've got a few of the cranks walking around, 50 short, we're 50 short, they've given up already, and then of course you Paddy and Paz come on and really do a number, and it were only because a couple of decent biffs from a tail ender towards the end, boundaries sort of just took it away from a winner's a grasp. But that catch of Paddy's, that caught and bowl to win the game. I mean, to tie the game. Okay. It was great, but yeah, I mean, I think it's on pro. It was just picking up on, and people are quick, aren't they, when things aren't going right, and it sounded like the pro had got split opinions with a few groups of supporters, and there was quite a bit of debate. Just the similar conversations we're having about the batting, the bowling, the contribution, the makeup of the side, re-signing, etc. So I don't think us discussing it on here, I don't think is anything out of the norm. It's typically this time of year at all clubs up and down the league, these sort of conversations will be being had for next year, won't they? Let's hope we all the guys can lift a few more percent and bring some silverware towards the end of the season.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and and no matter what happens with Stephen, he's been fantastic for us, and coming on the podcast, he's always been great. I know the players, like him, and no matter who we've had, we know Gary, the amount of pros we played with. They divide clubs, but it's such a great conversation starter. No matter which side you're on, you could go from one extreme like Matthew Mott or Ryan Harris, who no one had a bad word for them, down to Corrie. They bring conversations to audiences like this, and that's the good the good side of having a professional within the league.
Yeah, and I think that
George, just one before. Go on, guys. Sorry,
just finish off on the first thing. Then I think probably the committee have got going to end up having quite a serious discussion. I mean, obviously, I don't know Stephen's intentions about him wanting to re-sign or what his outside interests are for if he's coaching in the 100 and in other ladies franchises or county setup, etc. But I would imagine let's assume we are looking for a new, let's go down that route, that we are looking for a professional each year. Looking at the makeup of the side, does that then lend itself to more of a batting professional? Given how good our amateur bowling has been, and you can argue that Stephen's encouraged that, because if he's tying down one end, just like you used to, and then the other amateurs can feed off that. So there's always pros and cons for that. But I would imagine that's going to be quite obviously if the committee want him and he re-signs, then fantastic. It's job done and we can look forward to next season. But if not, then it'd be interesting to see which way they think are going, whether a bowling professional who can bat all round, or whether it's more of a batting professional. And like Joe was alluding to, you take games away from the opposite. I mean, that's on that side of it. So anyway, but that's just my view.
I agree, and they're the good discussions to be had in these committees where you are discussing various players, which we've all been there. Just one final point, Joe, I have noticed our batting order is quite it's not very stable.
Fluid.
Not very consistent. Is there a reason behind that? I've not asked Ben, and I wouldn't mind asking him. I'm just wondering if there's a rationale.
So I think one of the things that and there are always two sides to this. But the argument or comment that we made earlier about the fact that nobody was running away with or scored on a massive runs or whatever else. I think the changes are we were trying to find something that fits in the batting order to make sure that we were scoring the amount of runs that we wanted to. And I think that we are. And the other thing is that this is probably the first year where we have had people coming in and out of the side because of availability, because of work and that sort of thing. But I think it's just trying to find the right balance in the team to find something that works to make sure that we're in games for as long as possible.
Looks like he's building his batting lineup around you now, Joe, because you're the only one who's stayed in that. You found a home for yourself in that new position of Chris Tavare sort of slot.
And yet he was more exciting. That's incredible, isn't
it? When we go a couple down early doors and we somebody to steady the ship sort of thing, and that's allowed the Charlies, Deans, and everybody else to pile in, Paz and stuff. And you've had a few, I think you've done a real good job there in that slot that you've had for the last few games.
That's very kind. Thanks. I've done my best.
So you can ask.
The upper echelons will decide whether it's good enough.
I like your pronunciation of that, Gary.
Yeah.
Chris Tavare.
Yeah.
All right, very nice. Yeah, very nice.
Very cultured, that
Joe, let's move on to we just for the listeners, we invited the second team captain to come on, but he's working late. And then we invited
DJing,
more experienced. Yeah, he's practicing his DJing. We invited one of the more experienced second 11 players to come on, but he got continuous abuse about the lack of runs he's got and how he's never available. And Aggers were more interested in a bagress in some European sunny climate. So I'm sorry us to just try and talk through the second 11 and how they've progressed. If you don't mind, Joe, I'd like to just give, I've only watched games of the. But just to give you, my assessment, a tough league. I think it's fair to say that the first division of the junior table is a tough league. They were in the second division last year, got promoted, but with a lot of young players, and I think it's fair to say only just promoted. But it appears to me that they're really holding their own. They're not going to get relegated. They're not going to win the league. They're probably similar to the first 11. But I've got to say, Joe, I'm not sure that some of the 16, 17, 18-year-olds have progressed as we would anticipate. Is that short summary accurate as far as your view goes?
I think that's fair. I think they would probably agree with that assessment too. Yes, I think that they are potentially suffering from something similar to the first team, potentially, where a few people getting some scores. But I think the difference in the second team, and certainly when I played in the second team, was I always saw that as a chance. I always saw it as developmental cricket to make me a better player. But I always saw it as a chance to be able to try and bat for a long period of time. And, the bowlers the same. They could bowl a set of overs. They could work on their lengths and not in a kind of training game kind of scenario or whatever. But I think that when I look back at the stats from all the players, I think they finding ways to get out. That happens. And, it might be one of those seasons where it's a bit of a blip and, next year they come too. But I think for some of the 16, 17-year-olds, I think that they potentially need to sort of have a think about where they want to go with their cricket. If they want to, play and play with the mates, in the second team, enjoy themselves. I'm not saying they can't enjoy themselves if they want to get into the first team, but if they want to, play socially, that's absolutely fine. That's what cricket clubs are built on players that don't necessarily want to play in the first team, but they certainly help progress players through to the first team and play in the second. So I think for some of those 16, 17-year-olds, I think there's just been a lack in the performance in the same way of the first team.
I wouldn't expect you to name names, Joe, but in terms of pathway players or APP and non-pathway player, are they all in that same bracket? Obviously, in a wider sense, they are, of course, but is there a difference there in the attitude? Is there some that are more focused on that, or is there some that think, oh, I'm on the pathway, I'm okay, I'm going to make it, I'm going to, I'm guaranteed to get in that first team sooner than later, and maybe they're just overconfident, or what?
Yeah, I don't think there is. I don't think there's a difference. I think it's more of a kind of general point. Two players that have come into the first team this year. Henry, who's done fantastically well. He's done brilliantly. He's fielded well and he's batted well. And I think in the last few games, in the next set of games, and also through the winter, I think his bowling will really progress as well, and he'll get a chance to bowl. He bowls excellent left arm spin, and it's Jez know, Gary, I don't know much about your bowling, but
underbowled,
underbowled,
yeah, that's my style, underbowled.
Yeah. But you've got to work at it, haven't you? That's the thing with bowling, I think. And Tom York-Robinson, who's recently come into the first team but played in the T20s, have been really unlucky with injuries. They've done really well, and they train really hard and they practice hard, as do a lot of players in the club. And in the second team as well, some players that aren't on the pathway have done really well. One new player we've got, Shawkat Ali. He bowls left arm leg spin and bats well, and he's recently come into the second team, and he's done brilliantly in the third and fourth team as well. He's been fantastic. So I think it's just a sort of general point. It's not sort of picking out or picking on anybody. And you'll know from when you were captain, Gaz, there's a multitude of players that come through, and some get into the first team and some don't. Some want to play in the first team and some have no real interest, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. And
people do develop, Joe, differently. You'd be surprised. Tom York-Robinson burst on the scene 2-3 years ago, getting hundreds for fun in schoolboy cricket. he's playing for Lancashire. He's still at the county setup now, but people catch up. People
of course.
develop and they find different things that either motivate them more to play better cricket or less. But you look at and I still maintain I do think we've been quite unlucky with injuries and with work, which obviously affects whether it's the first team or second team, but affects both. Yeah. You look, Jackson, Tommy Robinson, Joe Sharp, George Durkin, Henry, and then when you add on the few occasions when they've all played, Mark Bles and Finchy in the seconds, and then Kiro and young Bithell and Tom Olstead
and Aggers. Aggers is a fantastic cricketer.
Well, but he just hasn't got any runs this year, has it?
I don't know. I don't understand. He certainly contributes.
Yeah, no, I'm only tricking. It was Matt Stanley that was giving him some stick. But yeah, when we've got a full first team and a full second team, we've got to be proud of that. And good on Matt for sticking out, keeping them together and trying to instill that Lowerhouse mentality, which you've got to really enjoy your cricket. But
I've said on lots of occasions,
it's really important that you win and you don't put up.
I've said on lots of occasions how much I think of Matt because he's done such a fantastic job. I think he might be top of the bowling actually. Now I think about it, or certainly well up there. Which shows that he also still contributes to the. He's not just somewhere to look. Someone to look after the players that we're bringing through. He properly contributes to the team and is an example for those players of if you bowl in a certain area and you have a plan and you execute that plan well, that's how you become a good cricketer. That's how you develop as a cricketer. So that's so commendable, I think, and I think he's doing a fantastic job, which is brilliant.
He was so disappointed after the Junior Cup semi-final. I messaged him briefly, and he was gutted for the obviously the kids who got them there, and that they wouldn't have this season a chance to just experience a finals day. And I watched, it was obviously streamed, and I was watching the whole game against Rami and side by side with the other sort of a right good afternoon that. But and again, just it could have been Finch who turned it for that game, but Russ Worley for Great Harwood just comes in and gets 40 odd, and at the end of the day, makes all the difference. And and that'll have done the Great Harwood. If I don't know if they had a particularly young side, but sometimes when they see how that's done in those situations, they won't know it, but they'll have learned so much themselves with the Lowerhouse team just from they'd rather have won. Of course, we would have all rather they'd won, but that's a massive experience they'll take forward that they won't want to feel the same way again on a semi-final and that they felt last time. Make up for it next time, right?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, it's so true that, Gary. They won't realise what they've learned until in 5 years' time when they think, "Crikey, why have I done that?" Or 10 years' time, and it's because you progress through it, from there. So, no, that's fantastic. Thanks very much, you two guys. Is there anything else that we want to just talk through? I think we've gone through the season, where we're up to at the moment. We're all positive. I think it's a good season. The youngsters have got another season under the belt, and we've and it's certainly been enjoyable. And it's by far over. It's not even into August yet. So, is there anything else, Joe, that you want to discuss before we say good night to the listeners?
I'd just like a really quick sort of shout out to the thirds and fourths. The thirds are doing extremely well this year. They're in the top three and pushing for promotion into the top division, I think, if I understand how the leagues are set up this year. But I think that they're doing really well. So if they can have some big performances in the next few games, hopefully they can move into the next division. And the fourth team, which I would say is of the maybe slightly younger players who were sort of just finding the way in cricket and developing, they're doing really well too. They've won a few games this year under Roger Watson and Shabazz, who's captain. And again, they're learning the game they're learning to play, and they've done really well, and they've had some really good performances. So hopefully they'll keep going and they'll keep progressing. And that's it from looking quite rosy.
It's a great point, John, and we're probably missing not mentioning it a little bit more. But I think towards the end of the season, we'll invite our head of everything and our guru Stan to come on. But what the juniors are doing, I know I think we've got about the under 3 Bears now. We've got that many junior sides, but it progresses and it comes through to the 4th team. And then the 3rd team, and the work that those people do is just fantastic. And it's sometimes only seen when players get to the 1st team. So no, a big thank you to all the.
One more thing to add, Jez.
Okay, Joe.
So obviously the club is really built on its junior section. The players that have come through, all the supporting people on the committees and that kind of thing. Too are also really valuable. We're also always open for, if any of the listeners want to come and support the junior section, they can always come and watch the games. But if they want to do any bits of coaching or they want to come and help, then we're also open for that too. If they want to, learn under some fantastic coaches in, Stan and Paddy and Francois and Nigel, our head coach. There's that too. So if you want to get involved in a different way that's, maybe a little atypical, that's not, maybe painting the stones on the side or cutting the grass, and you might want to, try something slightly different, we're also open for that.
Yeah, fantastic point, Joe. And even if your kids aren't playing down there, then feel free to come and join in. Or if you're listening and you're not sure whether you should bring your children down, then please come down and see Stan. It is a great setup, and it bodes well for the future and for the whole community in the area. So thanks very much for that, Joe. Gary, anything you want to finish off before you go back to the sun?
Yeah. No, I'm good. Thanks, Jez. I mean, it's been great catch up and good to hear, like I say, a bit more insight on some of the games and how the seconds are doing in the other junior side. So, thanks for that.
Brilliant, Gary. Thanks very much for joining us again. We really appreciate this, and the catch-ups, we miss you when you're not here, and we'll hopefully meet up again real soon. So thanks very much for doing that, Gary. And Joe, thanks for joining in again. I know you've been under a bit of pressure because of we're firing the questions at you, but what the spectators want, they like you being under a bit of pressure. So everyone, thanks ever so much for listening. We will be looking at putting out probably another 2 podcasts before the end of the season, then a final season wrap up, and then we'll look at some special guests through the winter to get us over that century mark of podcasts. We are planning to have a special podcast for the 100th, so please keep posted, keep following on Twitter and Instagram, and keep looking at the website. If you follow and like the episodes, then fantastic, you'll get them sooner. And thanks to the sponsors, which will no doubt be added on at the end. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch up real soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Gordon, send more house to save the house.